guys, it's Nik the Booksmith. Welcome back, welcome back. I thought today would be a good day to do some of the embellishing / additions to the junk journal that we made in the last video. And this can furnish as some ideas for some new ones out there, or just to provide some inspiration to those who've been around a while, but sometimes it's good just to have a refresher course and think about things. So let's think about things. All right, here is our book from last time. As it's probably pretty evident, we have a lot of room that we can add things, but that was the whole point, right? That was the whole point. I have a bit of scraps from just like offcuts from a pile that, well, it's a shoebox. I'm gonna be honest. It's a shoebox full of stuff. And I just grabbed a pile of just random things. I figured we could work with that because that's the whole point, is offcuts and random things combined with also things that you love. There really isn't a rule about junk journaling. And if somebody tells you that there's rules, you can agree or you can agree to disagree. That is up to you. As far as I'm concerned, I don't think there's any rules. I think that's the whole point. But then I'm a consummate rule breaker, so maybe don't listen to me. All right, one of the things that we can do maybe on the inside cover is take a piece of cardstock and you could make some kind of, it's a little too long, you can make a place to slide in stickers or slips of paper to write little extra notes, whatever you want to do, right? Another thing is, I had made this for another project, I believe was a 6x6 piece out of the back of a Tim Holtz designer cardstock pad. And what's nice about these little 6x6 pieces is that they can easily be cut down into all kinds of things, and the scale is nice if it's going to be a smaller item like this. This is like, it comes in like an inch on either side. But what I had done, and you might be able to tell, is when I got the scoreboard out, I scored twice so that there would be a little room in there to actually put something. Because you can put something like this, you can just slap it on, but then it might be more difficult to get things in here, at least more than one thing at a time, and then have room. And because you don't want it to be pulling on whatever adhesive you're going to be using. That makes sense? So maybe I'll just add this since it's already here and staring at me. I probably made this 2 or 3 years ago, so maybe it's time to use it. What do you think? And these are, the size is arbitrary because they can be made in any size. It's just the corner cut out of both bottom edges. And I like to bevel. You can cut them just straight, but if you cut them just straight, when you fold this up and over, if you've cut it crooked in any way, it might overlap and you might see it from the back. So I usually just go in and then angle. And of course, I'm just going to use some double-sided tape because if we had to wait around for glue to dry, I would never get this done. And I have hole punch, and I could, if I was a mind to, which apparently I am, cut a little thumb hole so it's easier to grab smaller things inside. And that should work out well. And again, I'm going to use double-sided tape, but larger double-sided tape, at least on the bottom. This stuff is pretty darn sturdy. Of course, depending on what you're sticking it to. It probably doesn't stick to everything. That's just the way life is. And I will just kind of center it somewhat. There we go. Not going anywhere. And now there's quite a bit of room in here to put all kinds of things. Whatever floats your boat, or probably even have room for a pencil in there if you were so inclined. All right, I'm gonna find one of the inner pages. That one will do. For a fold out, grab my scoreboard. This too is a scrap from the Tim Holtz, one of the paper packs. I don't know which one. I had most of them at one point, I think. And I'm gonna score right on that delineation between the ledger paper and whatever this is, you know, the pattern. And what I'm going to do, and you can do, I mean, do anything you want, but you can attach it on this side, or you could attach it to the back and have it fold around. Sometimes it just looks cool to be able to turn the page and have something interesting on the other side. Does that make sense? So I'm going to do that. And you're asking, but Nick, what is this fold out good for? Well, I told you there weren't any rules. You could attach a photo on the other side if you wanted. Secret phone numbers? I don't know. I think a photo would be cool, or some kind of ephemera, something. This is a table of calculations that I think is kind of cool, so problem solved. But I did leave this edge open, so something could be slipped in there. Let's see, I've got this. Add this little tab to be able to grab it out of the pocket. Does that sound like a plan? And I'll just grab this glue since it's here. Okay, let's see if that works. There we go. And then the little tab does stick out a little bit. I will take a paper clip just for now. That's how I'll keep it closed. We're just gonna go old school. Let's see, what else can we do? I have these photo slides, little tiny dudes, and perhaps they need little places to go. Piece of file folder. That'll work. Just grab the scoreboard. Almost 1/2 inch on both sides. And 1/2 inch from the bottom. Might as well keep it simple. And that's what I like about a scoreboard, is that I can lay this on top. Let's say I'm making a pocket, but you don't want to score exactly where it's going to hit, or it won't have room to slide in. So you can maneuver the piece of paper, or whatever you're doing, back and forth a little bit just to slide it over a little bit, and you know it's going to be a straight line. Just a lovely thing. Now I'm going to cut the corners out, but bevel them a little bit, angle them in, and fold these like this. Let's make sure it fits. And it does. Okay. Now, one little tidbit. I always put the bottom flap, if I'm making some kind of a pocket with the little flaps that are going to fold around, I always put this bottom one over the top of the sides, because if you do it the other way, if you put the bottom up first and then the sides, then you have a chance where you're sliding this in and it hits that edge. And you don't really want that to happen. At least I don't. Not on my watch. And again with the glue. This should stick pretty fast. Grab a couple of these clips just to give them a second. And for those of you in the States, you can get these little pink clips at the Dollar Tree. And there's 6 in a package for, I would say $1, but the Dollar Tree is not $1 anymore, is it? It's $1.25 now. I know, you don't even have to say it because I hear you, Mama. I'm gonna set these aside because I'm not exactly sure where I'm gonna put this just yet, because I know what I'm doing next. And while I have this here, I'm going to make an envelope, like pretty good size envelope that has a string closure so that good sized things can be placed inside and it won't go anywhere. Sound good? I'm going to take a piece of cardstock, and this is, again, from one of the Tim Holtz packs. And can you tell I'm using up stuff that I didn't use? And what I'm going, I better like back up a little, back the truck up, bucko. So I'm gonna make it 10.5 inches from top to bottom. So I'm going to trim that down because this is a 12 by 12 piece. And then from side to side, it needs to be 11 inches. It should be just an inch off, if my math is correct, and that is not a guarantee. All right, now I can get my scoreboard. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up from the bottom edge up to 3.5. So I will score that at 3.5. I will come down from the top 2.5. So 1, 2.5 would be right here. I'm going to find where I scored right here. But wherever I just scored from on the bottom, I'm going to go over to the left 1 tick mark, which is 1/8 of an inch, and give that score. And then I'm going to do the opposite where I scored over here, where I came down 2.5. I'm going to go back the other way, 1 tick mark, and score that there. Now I can turn it this way. I'll come in 2 inches from this side and score down, and come in 2 inches from this side and score down. And now I'll do the same thing, find my score from this one, go back the other way 1 tick mark, and then on this side, go back that way 1 tick mark. Now I can take my scissors and I'm going to cut the corners away on the innermost score lines, because there's double score lines. Now for the little, these are little side flaps that we're going to fold over. But I'm going to, where is my, oh, take my little square and I'm going to line it up on some of the grid marks. Not skid marks, grid marks. I heard you guys giggling. And I'm going to cut a corner off like that. I came down 1 inch and then over 1.5 inches to take off that little side. And then if you flip it this way, if you flip it over, flip it horizontally, and then line it up, you can cut along that mark and it'll be the exact same as the other side. And you actually don't have to cut the corners off. I just like to because I think it looks nicer. I will also take a corner chompy. This is the 2.5 inch side, the shorter side. And now we have these double score lines, and I'm going to fold on both of those and turn those score lines into folds. So now when we close it, you can see that it's got a little bit of depth to it so that it's not just a flat envelope. Sound good? And of course I did it upside down. So don't be me, because I wasn't paying attention. So don't be me, don't do this. Of course it doesn't matter because it's going to go in vertically. But if it was going in horizontally like this, my pattern's upside down. This should have been the top and that should have been the bottom, but it doesn't really matter because it's going to be going in like this and not the other way. Anyway, now what I'm going to do, find the center such as it is, and I'm going to mark that with a pencil. And from that little center, I'm going to come in 3/4 of an inch and mark that with something darker so that we all can find that again. And then on this bottom side, it'll be 2 inches up from the center. So in that general vicinity. And I'm going to take my Crop-A-Dile and I'm going to punch a 3/16 hole on both of those that I just marked, like that. And then take some more scraps of that file folder. I cut a couple of circles. It's a 1-inch punch. And I have a reinforcer punch, and this isn't actually completely, totally, unabashedly necessary, but I do it anyway. I'm going to cut a couple of these. I've just gotten into this habit and it works for me, so I'll show you. Grab my glue. I'm going to glue 2 of the circles together, like so forth. I'm going to guesstimate the center of each of these. I'll say that looks about right. And I'm going to take one of these little hole reinforcer thingies, which could also just be a little circle of, like a circle punch. Doesn't have to be a circle within a circle. I shall punch through both of those through the center. We hope it's the center. It's never really perfectly the center, regardless of how I try. A couple eyelets. Let's see what colors are on here. Let's do black. And one of these will go through the hole in this side. Put this in the where I'm going to set the eyelet. And then one will go through this one. Like so. And get some string, about, I don't know, 12 inches or so. And I usually tie it through the top one. And I just tuck it in behind that circle. And tie a knot. It's not like it's going to come loose. And then that way, when it closes, we can fold these in, then this gets folded, then this gets folded, and then you can use the string to close the whole shebang. I'm gonna cut this one short, because if I don't, I won't know which one is the tail to undo the envelope with. Okay, let's put it in the book. So when I'm putting something of this size, I usually choose a section between two signatures, because remember we left the elbow room between each of the signatures, right? I think this is the best place to put something like this. Okay. And I'm going to put it on the signature that has a full sheet, where it starts with a full sheet. Okay, put my pencil in there so I don't lose my place. And you can glue, you can tape, whatever makes you happy. And you can make a secret compartment behind this if you want, by only enclosing 3 sides. If you want to be all sneaky and stuff. Sometimes, especially with little kids, if you're going to be making something to give to a little kid, oh, they just love it if there's like little hidey holes. At least I did. Maybe I was a sneaky little kid. That goes without saying though, right? You guys know that I was all kinds of trouble. You have like no idea. Well, you might. You might know me well enough to go, yeah, I know she was trouble. I can tell she was trouble from here. Yes, I was. That's where ADD was not my friend. There we go. And now that this is here, then this can be opened. And you can close this if you want. You don't have to leave this flap open. You can close one side if you want, or you can leave it to where it opens up all the way. That's neither here nor there, I think. But I put those little reinforcer things in the bottom to kind of lift the circle from the top of the envelope a little bit so that there's room for the string to slide in. So that method to my madness there. So there is the little envelope in there. Plenty of room, plenty of room. I try to choose sturdier pages if I'm going to be attaching something like that to it, because I don't want it to rip. And I also want the bulk of whatever item it is. Like, let's say I'm going to be putting these little pockets on something. I would want to hedge my bets and put it toward the foredge of the book and not toward the spine, just because the spine back here, this is already filled out somewhat. And this is the edge that has more space for filling. That's my theory, man. Okay, I made one of these earlier, and then I neglected to glue the edges down. Okay, let that sit for a second. This one's already dry, but I think I shall put them on this page. I will put these on this side. Put one there. And one about here-ish. There we go. And then there's still room to write on the bottom, or I have paper that was like coffee stained paper. And some of them have little number codes on them. In my Etsy store, I've got some cheap little digi-kits that can print out little number codes so that, you know, they look like they're officially something or other. So let's officially put some of these on there. Choose this corner, I guess. This one will be cattywampus. And this is a teeny tiny little paper clip. We'll put one on there just to do it. Just because it's there. Now that we've gotten some things done on the inside. So we got little pockets, bigger pockets. We've got even bigger pockets. I see a theme, don't I? And then a fold out with another pocket. Let's talk about the cover and the spine. Earlier, I got out just some craft paint because I wanted to see how this cover would take paint. And I painted over the bottom part of the spine where it had the publisher's name, I guess. And it worked well. So I think that's what I'm going to do for up here at the top. And I like to use painter's tape, not necessarily masking tape, because masking tape can be pretty strong. Cut that in half. And it doesn't always want to let go. Well, it lets go, but it takes skin along with it. And then some along each side. Although I don't mind the title on this one. It says Poems for the Great Days. So I actually don't mind that one. It's pretty innocuous. If it was a book about, you know, curing syphilis or something, maybe you really wouldn't want to advertise that. Or maybe you would. I'm not going to judge. Grab a paintbrush, and less is more. And this book has some little boo-boos, some scars in the cover, in the spine. So it's going to have some defects, which doesn't bother me in the least. So you could print out a label. I wouldn't use a real heavy paper because a heavy paper will tend to pull away from the spine after a while. Ask me how I know. But a thinner paper will be more malleable and will stick to the adhesive and subsequently also the spine as well. And I'm going to let that dry while we talk about the front cover. For the front cover, I mean, you could also paint it. You could get out your painter's tape and mask out an area and paint all kinds of stripes, or you could hand paint if you are adept at that. You don't want me doing that, I don't think. You could take some nice looking paper and make a panel out of it, which I think I might do. And I kind of like this one. It has the green and it also has red. Not that that matters because it doesn't in any shape or form at all. But I don't remember. This is not Tim Holtz, if you can believe it. I'm trying to remember. I will remember what that is and I will put it on the screen. I don't even know if they still print it. Have no idea because I've had this for forever. Like forever. This side would be okay too, but maybe a little too matchy. We can't have that. So there's that. And I have this oval. I'm going to mark the center because if I don't, I will hate myself later, even more than I do now. It's somewhat center. Now I can kind of line these up. Not happy that I tried this, but we're going to do it anyway. Ta-da! That's not too bad. That'll do, pig. And if you are inclined, you could always paint the edges gold if you wanted to. I could lay this down like this, and then I could take a piece of manila file folder, put some tape, and the piece of paper, this card, that is going to mask most of it, gets stuck down like that. And then you can either lay this down into a big cardboard box and go outside and spray paint if you want gold or copper or metal, some kind of a metal spray over the top, and then you would have a perimeter around the edge. Or you could carefully get some gold, just regular acrylic paint, and pounce some gold around the edges. I have spray paint because I am very impatient. I'm gonna go step outside the back door and spray that real quickly, and I'll be right back. Peel that away. And there we go, and we have a little bit of edge on that frame. I gotta find something to put in the middle. I'm not sure exactly what I'm gonna do with that yet. I will peel off this and see if we have any semblance of worthiness. Oh, not too bad. All right, I will make a paper label. I'll go type something out on the computer and print it out for the spine. And again, I'll be back. So what I did was I took some mulberry paper, and if you don't know what mulberry paper is, it's a very thin, almost like onion skin kind of paper. And sometimes it does have onion skin in it, or leaves, or bits of textiles or something in it. But anyway, you can get it really, really, really inexpensively on Amazon. It's on my favorites list under, I think, Booksmithables. It's on that part of the list. Yeah, it's really cool. So anyway, I took some of this and I printed with just some black ink this little N. There it is. And see, there's like little flowers in there. And I just took the end of a paintbrush and some gold paint, and I dotted gold centers on those 3 flowers. I considered also painting inside the initial, but I thought I'll just muck it up. So not gonna do that. And it looks to be the same width as my tape, which is 1 inch on here. And so I'm going to just use some tape and then slap that puppy right there in the middle of that green rectangle. Now I just have to get the backing off the tape. And the reason why I used the mulberry paper is because it is very thin. All right, there is my initial on the top there. And then I also printed out this little rectangle with a flower motif. So it should leave somewhat of a little green border around the edge. I could glue it, but I don't think I will. There we go. I say that's good enough. Now I'm going to kind of center this on the front, and I need a pencil. I'm going to give that oval a little bit of a mark so I know, because I was undecided, and I really still am. Let's be honest about that. I had the Cricut cut out an oval that is just slightly larger than the oval on the frame, in case I wanted to, you know, step it up a little bit, no pun intended, to make almost like a cameo style of front. And of course, it didn't have to be an oval. I could have used some card and done another rectangle, because that would have been easier, but Nobody ever said I did anything the easy way. It's not part of my makeup, apparently. I usually jump in full force and whole hog. It needs to be a t-shirt. Take this cheapo brush, and I think I'm going to paint it black. Oh, there's a song there. Love that song. Paint it black and fade to black. Both good songs. Wish I could play that song, so those of you that don't know Paint It Black could hear it, but I guess you can Google it. I certainly do not have the rights to play it, so you'll have to Google it. Now, if I was doing a commentary or critique or something like that on it, then I could play it. Interesting how the rules change depending on your intent. Although the copyright holder can still strike at their discretion, depending on whether or not they agree with the use that you are defining. Okay, I'm gonna let that dry for a second and go wash my hand. And another thing I did was with the die cut machine, I have a die that's, I don't know, it's the shape of lavender or something. And I thought it would be cool to place that on top like a cameo. What do you think? But it needs to be gold because of course it does. So I'm going to step outside the back door and spray paint this real quick. So nice and shiny. Shiny. And then I'm going to paint the back of it just to flatten it out. I suppose I didn't need to cut the oval out of the center then, did I? I'm just going to bypass that whole situation. There. I can pretend like it never happened. Like my 9th grade haircut. And then this can go over the top. Kind of like my 9th grade haircut. I just wanted to see how this is going to look before I commit. And I think I will cattywampus that on the front, just slightly askew. And I shall use my glue, since tape would be not real feasible to cut around. Okay, there is that. I'm going to take a little bit of sandpaper and just rough up the edge a little bit. Yeah, I could have done that before I put the sprig on, but that ship has sailed, so all of you in the comments, just keep that to yourself. I didn't want the edge to look too pristine. Now I can glue this to this, and then we can put it on the cover. I'll put glue on it. And I will center this in the middle-ish, like that. And then that way I can glue this to the front of the book and get that centered. And then all I have to do is put glue on the back of this, and it should fit right into that, you know, indentation. I think I'm going to give this a coat of sealer before I do that though. And that will be just a Rust-Oleum satin or matte, you know, whatever you got, just to protect the paint from rubbing off or something. And there we go. I think it looks pretty good, don't you? And what I thought I would do as well is on this back cover, I have one of these like library card envelopes. You know, nice little pocket to put in the back, don't you think? I could have printed out a kit that I have at my Etsy store. It's a library card envelope and the card that goes in it, but I didn't. So there is that. And I thought I would put this Rolodex card somewhere as well because I had printed this out. It's part of a poem by Christina Rossetti called Mirage, and it's a great poem. If you've never read it, read it. It's very short. Let's do like a little tuck spot with it. Do it here. Put a little bit of glue along the bottom edge, except not all the way to the edge. And then up the side. And I'm doing it this way because I want part of it to hang over the edge. And then that way, like, you could put a photograph or something behind it. This is my grandpa working on his car. Here he was picking a flower for Grandma. And that's my grandmother holding my mom when she was, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks old. There's my mom and her kitty on the farm. Cute. So if you want to make a Rolodex card, and let's say you don't have any, you can take a card that is 4 inches by about 2 1/8 or somewhere around there. Let me just line these up. And it doesn't look exactly like it, but you know, it's a facsimile thereof. And I'm just going to punch a hole where the other ones were, and you can guesstimate that as well. And then you just basically take your scissors and cut through the bottom. And you can round the edges off if you want. I don't know, they don't look too bad. It's kind of close. Well, I hope everybody enjoyed this dip of the toes into the pool of decorating or embellishing books. My style tends to be more of a utilitarian kind of embellishing. I like pretty things to look at, that's for sure. But I also like things to be of use. I don't want to have anything that I put into a journal make it harder for the person to use it. If it gets in the way or it's just not practical, it's not going to work out as far as what it's supposed to be used for, I won't put it in. But I most certainly like antique looking touches just to add some character to the book. So I hope that maybe something that we went through gave you some ideas for your next book. And those of you who have never made a junk journal before, maybe it's time. Maybe you could take an old book and use the cover, put some pages in there, and try it out. I mean, what do you have to lose, right? And that's it. All right, guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me today and previously for the construction part of the series. I hope everybody is having a great week, and I will see you really, really soon in the next video. Bye, guys.